I was driving home from the estate lawyer's office with the windows down, letting the cool November breeze wash over me. The California sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, and for the first time in 6 months, I felt something close to joy. My sister Emily had left me everything. Her beachfront property in La Jolla, worth nearly $3 million. Her investment portfolio, another $2 million. The antique jewelry collection our grandmother passed down to her, easily worth $500,000 more. At 65 years old, after 37 years as a child psychologist and living on a modest pension, I was suddenly wealthy. The lawyer, Mr. Chen, had been almost apologetic about how long it took to settle Emily's estate. She'd passed away in May, and it was now late October. But I understood. Emily never did anything simply. I couldn't wait to tell Linda. My daughter had been so supportive through Emily's illness, through the funeral, through the months of grief that followed. She'd even insisted I move in with her and my granddaughter Sophia after I sold my small condo in Phoenix. "You shouldn't be alone right now, Mom," she'd said. At the time, I'd been touched. Now, I had news that would change all our lives. I turned onto Linda's street in the suburbs of San Diego, rehearsing what I'd say. Maybe I'd help Linda finally open that boutique she'd always dreamed about. Maybe I'd set up a trust fund for Sophia's medical school. My granddaughter had just graduated from UCSD and was taking a gap year before applying to med school. This money could make everything easier for both of them. The house was dark except for the kitchen light. I parked in the driveway and grabbed my purse. It was only 7:30. They were probably having dinner. As I approached the side entrance, I heard voices through the kitchen window, which was cracked open to let in the evening air. I was about to call out when I heard my name. "So Barbara actually gets everything?" That was Sophia's voice, sharp and eager. "Everything," Linda's response. The lawyer confirmed it today. $3.5 million in real estate, $2 million in stocks and bonds, another $500,000 in jewelry and art. $6 million total. I froze. My hand was on the doorknob, but I didn't turn it. "But how did she find out before you?" Sophia asked. "You said you'd know first." Linda laughed. It was a sound I'd never heard from my daughter before. Cold, calculating. "I've had access to Mom's phone for months. Remember when I helped her set up that new iPhone in August? I installed monitoring software. I see every call, every text, every email. The lawyer called her this morning to schedule the meeting." The world tilted. I pressed my hand against the wall to steady myself. "So when do we start?" Sophia's voice again. "Tomorrow. I already have everything we need. The prescriptions, the doctor, the psychiatrist. It'll take maybe 3 weeks, 4 at most." "And you're sure it'll work?" "Sophia, I've been researching this for months. We just need to get her confused enough, disoriented enough, that when Dr. Morrison evaluates her, he'll confirm what we need him to confirm. Early onset dementia. Incapacity. Then I file for conservatorship, and we control everything. The real estate, the investments, all of it. What about the jewelry? Can we sell that right away? We have to be careful. But yes, within a few months, once I'm the conservator, we can liquidate whatever we want. Grandma Emily's Cartier pieces alone should get us $400,000. We'll pay off your student loans first, then my mortgage, then we can start really living." I couldn't breathe. My daughter. My granddaughter. The 2 people I loved most in this world were planning to drug me, declare me incompetent, and steal everything my sister had left me. 37 years as a child, psychologists hadn't prepared me for this. I'd spent my career helping families, identifying abuse, protecting the vulnerable. I'd written papers on manipulation tactics, on how to recognize when someone was being exploited, and I'd missed every single sign that my own daughter was capable of this. I backed away from the door, my heart pounding so hard I thought they might hear it. I made it to my car, got in, and just sat there, shaking. The sunset I'd admired 20 minutes ago had faded to darkness. How fitting. I started the engine and drove. I didn't know where I was going, just away. Away from that house, away from those voices, away from the reality that was crashing down around me. Eventually, I found myself in a Target parking lot, under the harsh glow of fluorescent lights. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. Who could I call? Who would believe me? Linda was so good at playing the devoted daughter. Everyone thought she was wonderful. Even I had thought so, right up until 7 minutes ago. And then, something clicked. The way my brain had been trained to work through my decades of clinical practice. Assess, analyze, plan. I was Dr. Barbara Mitchell. I had spent my entire career studying human behavior, manipulation, gaslighting, abuse. I knew how these schemes worked because I'd seen hundreds of cases. I'd testified in court as an expert witness 23 times. I'd written 3 books on family dynamics and psychological abuse. If anyone was equipped to handle this, it was me. I sat in that parking lot for an hour thinking. Linda had made a critical mistake by telling me her entire plan. She didn't know I'd heard, which meant I had time. They were starting tomorrow, which meant I had tonight to prepare. First, I needed to understand exactly what she'd done to my phone. I drove to a Best Buy that was still open and bought a burner phone, paying cash. I activated it in the parking lot. Then I called my nephew, Ryan, Emily's son. He was an IT security specialist in Seattle. "Aunt Barbara?" He sounded surprised. It was late. "Ryan, I need your help, and I need you to not ask questions until I'm done explaining." Something in my voice must have convinced him because he just said, "I'm listening." I told him everything. The inheritance, the conversation I'd overheard, the phone monitoring. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Aunt Barbara, I'm so sorry. But I'm going to help you document everything. Can you access a computer right now?" "I'm in a Best Buy parking lot. I can go back inside." "Do that. Buy a laptop. Pay cash. Don't use your credit card. I'm going to walk you through how to check your phone remotely and start collecting evidence." 2 hours later, I sat in a Denny's with a new laptop, my burner phone, and a detailed plan. Ryan had confirmed that Linda had indeed installed spyware on my iPhone. She could see everything. He walked me through how to access the logs without alerting her, and what we found made me sick. She'd been monitoring me since August. 3 months. Every call with Emily's lawyer, every text with my friends, every email about Emily's estate. She'd known about the inheritance before Emily had even died. There were searches in her own browser history going back to July. How to get conservatorship of elderly parent, medications that cause confusion in seniors, psychiatrists who do competency evaluations San Diego. She'd been planning this since before Emily passed away. Ryan sent me a secure cloud link where everything was being backed up automatically. "Don't change anything on your phone," he warned. "Keep using it normally. Let her think the monitoring is working, but use the burner for anything you don't want her to see." "Ryan, thank you." "Aunt Barbara, she's stealing from both of us. That was my mom's money too. If Emily knew what Linda was planning." His voice cracked. "We're going to stop her. Together." I spent that night in a hotel, using cash again. I couldn't go back to Linda's house. Not yet. Not until I had a plan. I lay in the uncomfortable hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about everything I knew. Linda wasn't stupid. She'd be careful. The prescription she mentioned meant she'd already seen a doctor, probably complained about me, laid the groundwork. The psychiatrist was probably already lined up, maybe even paid off. Dr. Morrison. I'd heard that name before. I pulled out my laptop and searched. Dr. Richard Morrison, psychiatrist, practice in Carlsbad. And there it was, buried in a medical board database. He'd been investigated 4 years ago for falsifying patient evaluations in conservatorship cases. No charges filed, but the complaint was there. Linda had found a corrupt psychiatrist. As a psychologist, I knew what medications could cause confusion in elderly patients. Benzodiazepines were the most common. Ativan, Xanax, Valium. In high enough doses, they could make someone seem genuinely impaired. Mix them with sleep medications or certain antihistamines, and the effect would be even more pronounced. I opened a new document and started typing. 37 years of clinical experience had taught me how to document everything. I wrote down every detail I could remember from the conversation I'd overheard. Exact quotes where possible. Timeline. I noted the date, time, location. I described my emotional state, my observations. Then I created a plan. If Linda was going to start tomorrow, I needed to be ready. I needed to catch her in the act, document everything, and build a case so airtight that even her lawyers couldn't fight it. At 6 a.m., I drove to a medical supply store and bought drug testing strips, the kind that could detect benzodiazepines, opioids, and other common substances and liquids. I bought a small camera, the kind designed for home security. I bought a voice-activated recorder. Everything went on a credit card I'd opened years ago that Linda didn't know about. At 9 a.m., I called Linda from my regular phone, making my voice bright and cheerful. "Good morning, sweetheart. I'm so sorry I didn't come home last night. I had dinner with some old colleagues from Phoenix, and it ran late, so I just got a hotel. I'll be back this afternoon." "Oh, Mom, no worries at all." Her voice was so warm, so loving. How had I never heard the falseness in it? "We were a bit worried, but I figured you were out. How was your day yesterday?" "Wonderful, I have so much to tell you. See you soon, darling." I hung up and felt sick. She was so good at this. The concern in her voice had sounded genuine. If I hadn't heard what I'd heard last night, I never would have suspected. I spent the day preparing. I practiced looking confused, disoriented. I read medical literature on medication-induced cognitive impairment, so I'd know what symptoms to fake if they succeeded in giving me drugs. I set up the camera in the guest room where I'd been staying, hidden inside a decorative clock on the dresser. I tested the voice recorder. Everything worked. At 4 p.m., I drove back to Linda's house. I parked in the driveway and took a deep breath. I was about to walk back into a place where two people I loved were planning to destroy me. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I didn't get to where I was in my career by running from difficult situations. Linda opened the door with a huge smile and wrapped me in a hug. "Mom, we missed you. How was Phoenix?" "Actually, I wasn't in Phoenix, dear. I was here in San Diego. Just needed some me time." A flicker of something crossed her face. Confusion? She thought she'd been tracking my location, but the burner phone was in Phoenix with Ryan, who I'd overnight shipped it to. On my monitored phone, I'd left it turned off until an hour ago. "Oh, well, that's nice. Come in, come in. Sophia's making dinner, your favorite chicken piccata." The kitchen smelled amazing. Sophia looked up from the stove with a bright smile. "Grandma, perfect timing." I hugged her, feeling my heart break a little more. My granddaughter, who I'd rocked to sleep as a baby, who I'd helped with homework, who'd called me her best friend. She was in on this too. "Can I help with anything?" I asked. No, you sit. You've had a long day. Mom, why don't you make Grandma her special tea?" And there it was, the tea. I watched as Linda moved to the cabinet and pulled out my favorite mug. I watched as she made chamomile tea just the way I liked it. And I watched as she turned her back for just a moment, her hand dipping into her pocket. "Here you go, Mom. Drink up. You look tired." I took the mug, raised it to my lips, and pretended to sip. The liquid touched my lips, but I didn't swallow. I held it in my mouth for a moment, then pretended to swallow. Years of teaching had made me good at talking while drinking. I kept the conversation flowing, kept the mug raised periodically, kept up the pretense. When no one was looking, I poured half the tea into a water bottle I'd brought with me. I'd test it later. Dinner was lovely. They were both so attentive, so caring. Linda kept asking if I was feeling okay. Sophia kept refilling my water glass. They were waiting for the drugs to take effect. "You know, I am feeling a bit tired," I said finally. "I think I'll turn in early." "Of course, Mom." Linda squeezed my hand. "Sleep well." I went to my room and locked the door. I pulled out the drug testing strip and tested the tea I'd saved. It turned bright blue immediately. Benzodiazepines, probably a heavy dose, based on the intensity of the color. I sat on the bed and cried for the first time since I'd overheard their conversation. Not because I was scared, but because it was real. My daughter had actually drugged me. This wasn't a nightmare I could wake up from. But I couldn't fall apart. Not now. I pulled out my burner phone and texted Ryan. Evidence collected. Tea tested positive for benzos. Camera and audio recorder running. What's next? His response was immediate. "Don't drink anything they give you. Tomorrow, document everything. I'm flying down this weekend. We're going to nail them." The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. Every day, Linda and Sophia tried to drug me. Coffee, tea, juice. Once, I caught Sophia trying to crush a pill into my yogurt. I documented everything. The camera in my room caught Linda entering when she thought I was asleep, checking my medicine cabinet, planting prescription bottles. I pretended to be increasingly confused. I'd forget names of people I'd known for years. I'd ask what day it was. I'd leave the stove on accidentally. It killed me to act this way, but I needed them to think their plan was working. Linda scheduled an appointment with Dr. Morrison for me. She told me it was just a routine checkup with a new doctor. I went along with it, playing my part perfectly. Dr. Morrison was exactly what I expected. Slick, overly friendly, asking questions designed to make me seem impaired. "What year is it, Barbara? Who's the president? Can you count backward from 100 by sevens?" I answered slowly, hesitantly, getting just enough wrong to seem problematic, but not so much that it was obviously faked. Years of administering cognitive tests meant I knew exactly how real impairment presented. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said finally, his voice full of fake concern, "I'm a bit worried about what I'm seeing here. I'd like to recommend that your daughter consider legal arrangements to help you manage your affairs." "What do you mean?" I asked, letting my voice quaver. "Just some simple paperwork to make sure you're protected." I nodded, playing the confused, grateful mother. "If you think it's best, doctor." When we got home, Linda was practically glowing. "Mom, Dr. Morrison called me. He's concerned about you. He thinks we should consider conservatorship, just to protect you." "Conservatorship? What's that?" "It just means I'd help you make decisions about your money and health care, to keep you safe." "Oh. Well, if you think it's necessary." "I do, Mom, I really do. I love you and I want what's best for you." That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, but because of rage. How dare they? How dare they look at me with fake love while planning to steal everything Emily left me? The next morning, Linda told me she'd filed the conservatorship petition. The court date was set for 3 weeks away. She'd moved fast. I called Ryan from my burner phone. "It's happening. Court date is December 8th. "Good. That gives us time. I've been documenting everything from my end, too. The phone monitoring, the searches, all of it, and I found something else. Linda's been accessing your bank account since September." "What?" "She forged power of attorney documents. She's already moved $50,000 from your pension account into her own. She's been stealing from you for months." The evidence was overwhelming. Linda had created a paper trail that would bury her. Every fraudulent transaction, every forged signature, every illegal access to my accounts, Ryan had it all. I hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but Margaret Cho, a woman I'd worked with 20 years ago on an elder abuse case. She was brilliant, ruthless, and she owed me a favor. "Barbara, this is slam dunk," she said after reviewing everything. "But we need to be strategic. Let them think they're winning right up until the court hearing. Then we drop everything at once." The 3 weeks before the hearing were surreal. Linda was so happy. She'd already started shopping, buying expensive clothes, looking at new cars. Sophia had booked a trip to Europe for after I was declared incompetent. They were spending money they didn't have yet, money they thought they'd be able to steal from me. I continued to play my part. Confused, dependent, grateful for Linda's help. Inside, I was documenting everything with the cold precision I'd learned over decades of clinical work. December 8th arrived. Linda had me dressed like I was going to a funeral. "We want you to look presentable for the judge, Mom." We drove to the courthouse in downtown San Diego. It was a beautiful, clear December morning. Linda kept patting my hand. "Don't worry, Mom. This is all going to be fine. I'm going to take care of everything." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Patricia Reeves presided. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I liked her immediately. Linda's lawyer went first. Bradley Simmons, an attorney who specialized in conservatorships. He was smooth, presenting his case with practiced ease. "Your Honor, we're here today because Mrs. Barbara Mitchell, age 65, is no longer capable of managing her own affairs. Due to early-onset dementia, she has become confused, forgetful, and vulnerable to exploitation." He presented Dr. Morrison's evaluation. Dr. Morrison, a respected psychiatrist, examined Mrs. Mitchell and found clear signs of cognitive impairment. She couldn't recall basic facts, became disoriented easily, and showed marked decline in executive function. Linda testified next, painting herself as the devoted daughter. "Your Honor, it breaks my heart to do this, but my mother isn't the woman she used to be. She forgets to eat. She leaves appliances on. Just last week, she couldn't remember my daughter's name. I'm so worried about her, and I just want to make sure she's protected." She was crying. Real tears. I had to hand it to her, she was good. Sophia testified too. "My grandmother raised me when my dad left. She's the most important person in my life. It's devastating to watch her decline like this. But my mom is right. We need to protect her, even if it means making hard decisions." Judge Reeves listened carefully, taking notes. When Linda's side rested, she looked up. "Mrs. Mitchell, do you have representation?" I stood up slowly, playing my part one last time. I think so. There's a lady." Margaret Cho stood up from where she'd been sitting in the back of the courtroom. "Your Honor, I'm Margaret Cho, representing Mrs. Mitchell. And we'd like to present some evidence, if it please the court." Bradley Simmons looked confused. "Your Honor, Mrs. Mitchell didn't indicate she'd be represented." "She didn't need to, Mr. Simmons. Mrs. Mitchell has every right to counsel. Miss Cho, proceed." Margaret walked to the front with a tablet. "Your Honor, I'd like to start by playing a recording from October 24th, recorded at approximately 7:30 p.m. She pressed play. Linda's voice filled the courtroom. "I've had access to Mom's phone for months. I see every call, every text, every email." Then Sophia's voice. "So when do we start?" Linda again. "Tomorrow. I already have everything we need, the prescriptions, the doctor, the psychiatrist." The color drained from Linda's face. Sophia looked like she might be sick. The recording continued, every detail of their plan, every cold, calculating word. When it finished, the courtroom was silent. "Your Honor," Margaret continued, "this recording is just the beginning. We have video evidence of Miss Linda Mitchell administering drugs to her mother without her knowledge or consent. We have drug tests showing benzodiazepines in beverages Miss Mitchell prepared for her mother. We have evidence of illegal phone monitoring, fraudulent power of attorney documents, and theft of approximately $50,000 from Mrs. Mitchell's accounts." She pulled up image after image on the courtroom screen. The video of Linda drugging my tea, the drug test results, the forged signatures, the bank transfers. Furthermore, Your Honor, we have evidence that Dr. Richard Morrison, who provided the psychiatric evaluation, has a history of falsifying competency evaluations in conservatorship cases. We have documentation showing that Miss Linda Mitchell knew about his history and specifically chose him for that reason. Bradley Simmons was on his feet. "Your Honor, I had no knowledge of any of this. I was retained under false pretenses." Judge Reeves held up her hand. "Sit down, Mr. Simmons." She turned to Linda. "Miss Mitchell, is this recording authentic?" Linda couldn't speak. She just stared at the floor. "I'll take that as a yes. Mrs. Mitchell, would you like to address the court?" I stood up, and this time, there was no tremor in my voice, no confusion in my eyes. "Your Honor, my name is Dr. Barbara Mitchell. I spent 37 years as a licensed child psychologist, specializing in family dynamics and psychological abuse. I have testified as an expert witness in 23 court cases. I hold a doctorate in clinical psychology from Stanford University. I can recite the diagnostic and statistical manual from memory if you'd like." I turned to look at Linda for the first time since the recording played. "I am not impaired, I am not confused. I am not vulnerable. What I am is heartbroken that my own daughter and granddaughter would attempt to drug me, declare me incompetent, and steal the inheritance my sister left me." Linda was crying now, but these weren't the pretty tears from earlier. These were ugly, desperate sobs. "Your Honor," Margaret continued, "we're requesting that this conservatorship petition be dismissed immediately. Furthermore, we're requesting that you refer this matter to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. We're looking at attempted elder abuse, fraud, forgery, theft, and conspiracy." Judge Reeves didn't hesitate. Petition denied. "Bailiff, please detain Miss Linda Mitchell and Miss Sophia Vasquez, pending investigation by the district attorney." She turned to me. "Dr. Mitchell, I'm sorry you had to go through this. The court will issue a restraining order protecting you from any further contact with the petitioners." Two bailiffs moved forward. Linda looked at me with wild eyes. "Mom, please." "I'm sorry. I was desperate. I have debt, the house, I didn't know what else to do." I looked at my daughter, the little girl I'd raised, the woman I'd loved and supported through everything, and I felt nothing but emptiness. "You didn't ask me for help. You didn't tell me you were struggling. You chose to destroy me instead. That's not desperation, that's greed. Sophia tried to grab my hand as they led her past. Grandma, please, I'm so sorry, I didn't want to do it. I pulled my hand away. Yes, you did. You planned a trip to Europe with money you were going to steal from me. Don't insult me by lying now. They were let out in handcuffs. The courtroom emptied slowly. Margaret stayed with me, her hand on my shoulder. That was brutal, she said softly. It needed to be. They needed to understand that I wasn't the confused, vulnerable woman they thought I was. What are you going to do now? I thought about it. I'm going to move to Emily's beach house. I'm going to live the life my sister wanted me to have, and I'm going to set up a foundation in her name to help prevent elder financial abuse. They're going to go to prison, you know. The evidence is overwhelming. I know. And I did know. Linda and Sophia would spend years behind bars. Dr. Morrison's medical license would be revoked, and he'd face charges too. Bradley Simmons was already looking at ethics violations for not vetting his clients properly. I walked out of that courthouse into the December sunshine. Ryan was waiting outside. He hugged me tightly. You did it, Aunt Barbara. We did it, I corrected. He drove me to Linda's house one last time to collect my things. It only took an hour. I didn't have much there anyway. As I was packing, I found a photo album in the guest room. Pictures of Linda as a little girl, her first day of school, her college graduation, Sophia's birth. I sat on the bed and flipped through it, and finally I let myself feel the full weight of what had happened. My daughter had tried to destroy me. My granddaughter had helped her. The two people I loved most in this world had looked at me and seen only an obstacle between them and money. I cried then, deep, wrenching sobs. But when I was done, I put the album in the trash. Some things aren't worth keeping. The criminal trial happened 6 months later. I testified for 4 hours, walking the jury through everything that had happened. The recording, the videos, the drug tests, the forged documents, every piece of evidence Margaret and I had collected. Linda's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, as a mother who couldn't forgive a moment of weakness. But the evidence was too strong. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Linda got 7 years for elder abuse, fraud, and theft. Sophia got 4 years as an accessory. Dr. Morrison got 12 years for his role in multiple conservatorship fraud cases. Mine wasn't the first time he'd done this. I didn't go to the sentencing. Margaret represented me. She called afterward to tell me the verdict. How do you feel? She asked. Relieved, sad, empty. That's normal. You did the right thing. I know. But it doesn't feel good. And it didn't. Justice had been served. The law had functioned. But I'd lost my daughter and granddaughter in the process. Emily's inheritance had cost me my family. I moved into the La Jolla Beach house the day after the trial ended. It was beautiful, just like Emily. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. A deck where you could watch the sunset. A library filled with her books. I spent the first month just existing. I'd wake up, make coffee, sit on the deck and watch the waves. Sometimes I'd think about Linda and Sophia. Sometimes I'd think about Emily. Mostly, I just tried not to think at all. Ryan came to visit every weekend. He'd bring groceries, cook dinner, make sure I was okay. Aunt Barbara, you need to start living again. I'm trying. Emily wouldn't want you hiding in her house. Emily would understand. But he was right. Emily had left me this house so I could enjoy it, not so I could hide in it. So slowly, I started building a new life. I joined a book club. I started volunteering at a domestic violence shelter, using my psychology background to help survivors. I began writing again, working on a book about elder financial abuse. The foundation I'd promised to create became real. The Emily Mitchell Foundation for Elder Protection. We helped educate seniors about financial scams, provided free legal assistance to victims of exploitation, and lobbied for stronger laws protecting the elderly. 2 years later, I was at the foundation office in downtown San Diego when my assistant knocked on my door. Dr. Mitchell, someone's here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Who is it? She says she's your daughter. My heart stopped. Tell her I'll be out in a moment. I sat at my desk, taking deep breaths. Linda had been released early for good behavior. I knew she'd get out eventually. I just hadn't expected it to be today. I walked to the waiting room. Linda stood by the window looking out at the street. She'd lost weight. Her hair was shorter. She looked older, worn down by 2 years in prison. "Hello, Linda." She turned. "Mom, thank you for seeing me. What do you want?" I wanted to apologize. I know it's too late. I know you'll never forgive me, but I needed to say it anyway. I'm sorry. What I did was unforgivable. I destroyed our relationship for money I never even got. I threw away everything that mattered for nothing. I studied her face. I'd spent my career learning to read people, to see when they were lying. Linda wasn't lying now. She was broken, genuinely remorseful, and it was too late. "I appreciate the apology," I said finally. "But you're right, it is too late. You didn't just try to steal from me, Linda. You tried to erase me. You tried to make me into a helpless, incompetent shell of a person so you could take everything. That's not something I can forgive." "I understand." She pulled an envelope from her purse. "This is for you. All the money I took from your account, with interest. It took me 2 years, but I paid it all back. I got a job, saved every penny. It's not enough, but it's something." She set the envelope on the table and turned to leave. "Linda?" She stopped. "I hope you find a way to live with what you did. I hope you build a good life, make better choices, become a better person. But I can't be part of that process. I wish you well, but I don't want to see you again." She nodded, wiping tears from her face. "Goodbye, Mom." I watched her walk out of the office, out of the building, and out of my life. I picked up the envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $53,000 and a note. "I'm sorry for everything. I hope someday you can be proud of me again. Love, Linda." I sat down in the waiting room holding that envelope, and for the first time in 2 years, I cried for what I'd lost. Not the money, not the betrayal, but the relationship with my daughter that I'd never get back. My assistant found me there 20 minutes later. "Dr. Mitchell, are you okay?" "I will be," I said. And I meant it. Because even though I'd lost Linda and Sophia, I'd gained something else. I'd gained the knowledge that I was strong enough to protect myself. I'd gained a purpose through the foundation. I'd gained Emily's house and the life she wanted me to have. The law had functioned, justice had been served, but the cost of that justice was something I'd carry for the rest of my life. That evening, I sat on Emily's deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I thought about that day 2 years ago when I'd driven home from the lawyer's office, excited to share good news with my family. I thought about how quickly everything had fallen apart. But I also thought about the survivors I'd helped through the foundation, the elderly woman who'd been saved from her nephew's exploitation because of our education program, the man who'd gotten his savings back because of our legal assistance, the countless people who were safer because of the work we were doing in Emily's name. Emily used to say that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most important work. She was right. Prosecuting Linda and Sophia had been the hardest thing I'd ever done. But it had led me here, to this work, to this purpose. I raised my glass of wine to the sunset, to Emily, to the life I'd built from the ashes of the one that burned down. "Thank you, sister," I whispered, "for the inheritance, yes. But mostly for teaching me that sometimes doing the right thing means losing everything and still choosing to do it anyway." The sun dipped below the horizon, and I went inside to work on my book. Tomorrow, the foundation had a big fundraiser. Next week, I was testifying before the state legislature about a new elder protection bill. The